Brian Rose, London Real, 2 million subscribers on YouTube, 1 million viewers on his live stream with David Icke, a podcast host who interviews some of the biggest names within social media. How did he devolve into someone who scammed millions from his followers?
Hi guys, it's Em here. Now today I want to talk about this guy, Brian Rose. Now Brian is one of the most notable grifters in the truth community, and he has hopped onto many grifts, with his most latest one trying to be my Mayor of London. What? I first found out about Brian Rose by signing up to his Digital Freedom platform, a platform in which he could finally have freedom of speech and non-censorship. I watched some of the videos. Some of the videos that I wanted to watch on there was the pandemic indoctrination, two of those videos, which are notable and ones to watch. However, he also interviewed David Icke, and I wanted to see that interview. Now, this interview ended up at the time being the most watched live feed, which was soon eclipsed. However, yeah, that's how I got into looking into Brian Rose. But after that, I got bombarded by emails from his platform, a lot of them asking for me to donate to him. Now, he'd moved on to this, and he'd said that he wasn't in this for donations, and then he started taking donations. And then he started taking more donations, and then he set up a donate page for freedom of speech platform, and then he said he was stopping taking in the donations, and then he went for running for Mayor of London, and then carried on taking more donations. Now this guy is a grifter of the highest caliber, and he's come onto our radar because he's a grifter in the truth community, although he plays a different ball game to those like Charlie Ward and Greg Hallett and people that I've looked at before, to the point of trying to be getting into politics. Now, while looking into this guy, I found a channel called CoffeeZilla. Guys, you should go check that out. This guy basically exposes online, internet scammers, but he focuses more on kind of Ponzi scams and things of that nature. Common online grifts, and he's interviewed people and held them to account for their grifting. He doesn't look so much into the truth community like I do more specifically. But one of the people that he has been exposing, and probably the main person he's been exposing, is Brian Rose. And so watching this, there's a whole story behind that. So I want to give a shout out to CoffeeZilla. Please guys, go on his page, like, subscribe, watch his content, and if you can, comment and say M sent you. There is another channel that I want to use a bit of their research and content, and that is a guy called Spencer Cornelia. I will leave both of their links to their channels in the description. Please, again, go on there, like, subscribe, and just say that M sent you, just so we can appreciate their content and their work and me using it to make this video. So, saying that, let's get back on to Brian Rose.
Good morning. It's April 7th here in London, and yesterday was the craziest day at London Real history. We made $1,000 on the stream. I don't want your money. I've never asked for donations. I never will.
I don't want your money.
I've never asked for donations. I never will.
I've never asked for donations. I never will.
Our brand new Digital Freedom platform.
This platform is of the people, by the people, for the people. But now we're getting in, that was phase 1. Now we're doing phase 2. Phase 3, and I'm moving into phase 4. And lastly, there will be phase 5. This is going to go on for another 10 days until Rose Icke, and we're shutting off. We're going to be closing down this fundraising campaign very soon. So again, we're closing this thing out on May 3rd. And that is what phase 6 is all about. This is about the running costs. And so now we have fundraising for our monthly running costs.
Today, I am announcing my plans to become your next mayor of London.
Donate to my campaign.
Donate to my campaign.
I've never asked for donations. I never will.
Today, I am announcing my plans to become your next mayor of London.
He's a grifter, aka he goes back and forth between different causes, never really sticking with one, just trying to get your money. Oh yeah, and he's really good at it. He got $1 million for the Digital Freedom platform. What has he done with that? Nothing. He said he was going to build a platform. Instead, he hired out third-party software. He said he was going to sue YouTube. He hasn't sued YouTube. He said he was going to get blockchain technology. He hasn't gotten blockchain technology. Instead, he spent your money. For what? Where's those audited accounts? Oh, well, sorry, he's moving on. He doesn't care about your money anymore that he took from you. Instead, now he's going on to his next grift. Actually, he had a grift before running for mayor, but this is his newest grift, which we'll get into in a second. But I knew that he was going to do this, right? Because grifters got a grift, and when they fail to come through on their promises, they have to move on to the next thing quickly, right? So he was supposed to be the freedom of speech guy. Now he's moved on from that. He's lost patience because his followers no longer support him. So then he moved on to this new thing. It was a reality show that he launched in June 23 of 2020.
And we want to help you create that transformation.
That didn't work, so he's got to move on to the next grift. He can't get money from you that way. He's not getting any of your donations anymore. He's got to move on. So now he's running for politics. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see videos like this, how we get London back to work. And I say to myself, oh, this fits with nothing Brian has done before. It must be a campaign. He must be running for office. And sure enough, I was right. So my prediction is this campaign is going to be a total disaster. I think the media is going to eat him alive. His supporters are going to eat him alive after they realize he doesn't actually care about free speech and he doesn't actually care about censored voices. He's going to drop them like a hot potato as soon as it's politically convenient. And I think his history of grifting is going to eat him alive. His history of failing to come through on his promises and his repeated lies, I think it's going to catch up with him. Because he's already asking for more donations. I mean, Brian, I bet you didn't donate Rose is back, baby. He wants your email address and he wants your money.
Third, give us your email address below, as well as a link on how to volunteer and donate to my campaign.
There it is. All right. Look at that. Look, there's a little donate button and everything. I wonder how he figured out how to fundraise like that. I mean, honestly, dude, I think he's going to head fake his supporters again. He's going to be like, yeah, donate to my campaign. I'm Mr. Politician now. And then in 3 weeks, he's going to drop out, take the money and run.
I will need the help of every citizen of this great city working together towards our common goal.
I mean, in some ways, dude, to be completely honest with you guys, I think Brian's biggest advantage, if I'm going to pay him a compliment, is that politicians are sleazy. They're deceptive. They lie. They cheat. They steal. Hey, did I just give the Tinder profile of Brian Rose? So I actually think in some ways, maybe Brian Rose is the most fit YouTuber to ever go into office. And for that reason, he could be a good fit. Like, in terms of, I think he can lie enough. I think he's definitely enough of a snake. So I think he's going to do just fine in that sense. But I also think his ties with David Icke, people like that, are going to hurt him. And I think he's going to try to distance himself from those people, but that it's not going to work. And his followers are going to hate that because they like Brian Rose because they think, oh man, he actually is one of us. When in reality, he just used David Icke for his own means. He's going to throw him away as soon as he can. I mean, but one thing I want to call out from the very get-go is that he lies about like why he's running for office. He says he wasn't planning to run for mayor, but that he couldn't stand idly by.
I had no intention of becoming your next mayor. I have always been an entrepreneur and a broadcaster first.
I've always been a grifter, but then I realized politics is one of the greatest grifting games of mankind. And that's why he chose to run for mayor, because he's just scrambling. His business is failing. He needs something to do other than his business because no one believes in him anymore. I mean, if you look at his most recent crowdfunding campaign for, his followers, his grifting campaign, he's only raised $2,500 of the $250,000 he needs in this month. And it's already halfway through the month. So people aren't supporting him anymore. He knows it. He needs something to shift to, which is why he's running for office. You remember he was Mr. Freedom Platform. It's hard to believe. That was so long ago. Right now, if you go to freedomplatform.tv/donate, it redirects you. Literally, I'm not even joking. Redirects you to his campaign. He's not even bothering pretending like he cares about freedom of speech anymore. Now he's just going up onto my next thing. Now I'm Mr. Mayor, whatever. He's in last place according to the polls. Okay. A quick look at the poll shows that Brian Rose is gray with other. He literally doesn't even have his own bucket. He's just bucketed in with all the other, millions of irrelevant candidates for London, mayor of London. Listen, other politicians, they're not great. Don't get me wrong. But this guy is an opportunist. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. And he's an egomaniac. Look, who puts their face, a 10-foot tall version of their face on the side of a bus? It takes a special type of person to do that. I mean, that's even not hardly a politician thing. That's only a Brian Rose thing.
So I'm stopping the campaigning right now. I've been told that we cannot.
Just put it into context. He just spent all the followers' money on this stupid battle bus that he thought he was going to run around London shaking everyone's hands without a mask. And then he's all butthurt about it, that he was fined 200 pounds. He says he was arrested. He was fined 200 pounds.
Campaigns are out there right now, campaigning as we speak on the ground. But
again, the only thing I'm aware of, look, it might be different, but the only thing I'm aware of is other campaigns are literally doing leaflets. What happens when someone who will die for free speech meets a fragile ego that can't handle any criticism? Nuclear hypocrisy. I don't know how else to say it. Guys, we just got copyright claimed by London Real TV. This is Mr. Free Speech, the guy who wants no censorship of any kind. I don't know if you remember this. Maybe you remember his little tagline.
Jordan, you know, I might not agree with everything you have to say.
I don't agree with everything you say.
I might not agree with everything you say, but I will defend to the death. I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Yeah. Brian, I may not agree with everything you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Rose censored us on our show. He's censoring other people. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Steven, how do you know? Maybe it was just an honest mistake. It's all a big coincidence. Well, we actually have precedents for that. He's done this to other creators too who have been critical of him. This is Rebel Wisdom, who I did a video with. He also faced the wrath of Brian Rose, and he also got censored.
We have issued a copyright claim, got many of our investigations taken down, and also a copyright strike against Rebel Wisdom.
If you're just an average guy, you've never taken a stance on free speech, maybe it's understandable that you get offended, you just, in the heat of the moment, you take down someone's content. But to be the guy always claiming to be Mr. Free Speech, always claiming that you're so above censorship. In fact, you raised millions of dollars to be above censorship. For you to go and be that guy, to then go and use the copyright system like this, when it was clearly fair use, we were commenting on his little Kung Fu movie the entire time, transforming the content the entire time. For you to censor that is pure and total hypocrisy.
One thing I've understood about freedom of speech is it really means freedom of speech for things you don't want to hear out of other people's minds.
Brian! The sheer cognitive dissonance of these two stances is too much for me to bear, Brian.
It's really easy to say, I can say what I want. But the question is, like you said, will you defend to the death someone else's right to say something you fundamentally disagree with?
Guys, I don't know what else to say. I think we need a place free of censorship. I think YouTube's not enough, right? YouTube just lets anyone take down your video for any reason. I think we need something better. BitChute? No. Library? No. Storyfire? No. I think we need our own digital freedom platform. That's why today I'm live. No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be hilarious if we started our own rival digital freedom platform company, though, just to put up that one video of us making fun of Brian's karate movie? So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I need to call DeCast or something like that. Let's get Daily Motion on the phone. Let's build this thing, huh? And look, you might be asking yourself, why would Brian do this? And I want to submit to you that I think that he actually doesn't believe in free speech at all. I think he's using it as a convenient tool, and I'm going to try to prove that to you right now, okay? Here's evidence one. Here's him saying that he studies like books about psychopaths and manipulation and power. He's going to endorse these two books that really no sane person would think, oh, this is a way to model my life. Here, listen to this.
I read American Psycho. I read the book Pimp by Iceberg Slim, and I saw these as training manuals.
Hey, Pimp and American Psycho? Or about, hey, spoiler, psychos. Bruh. That's what they're about. These are books to show the underbelly of society, not to show you how to treat people. If you guys don't know, Pimp by Iceberg Slim, a lot of rappers got inspired by him, like Ice Cube, all these Ice T's. They got inspired by Iceberg Slim. Iceberg Slim wrote this book called Pimp to basically document his experiences as a pimp and controlling women and controlling people. This is the book that Brian Rose says was his training manual. Meanwhile, Iceberg Slim, it's not like, he doesn't really glorify it. It's just like an honest account, but he doesn't really glorify it. He's like, look, I could have been a better person if I had a different upbringing. And meanwhile, Brian Rose is like, hey, great. Some some manual on how to control people with manipulation. So I wouldn't put it past Brian to weaponize something like free speech. You know, he's going to say that he's a big fan. He's not actually. He's actually a big fan as far as it can serve his devices. And when his devices are no longer served, like in the case of us showing a video about him, kind of mocking him, kind of teasing him a little bit, that all of a sudden he's going to get super upset about. And now freedom of speech no longer applies. No freedom of speech for me. I also want to show you guys this. Brian Rose has also been kind of getting rid of free speech on his own channel even. He's been deleting a bunch of content ever since he announced his mayoral run here. If you look at his social blade, you can see that he deleted a bunch of videos really recently, like all within October. Look at all those views he lost. So you might be asking yourself, what videos did he delete? And we don't have a perfect answer for that because YouTube doesn't have a great way to tell that. But we do have maybe something to look at, because when you delete a video that's part of a playlist, it doesn't actually, it still shows it as like unavailable. And you can get a good idea of what he deleted by what's no longer in video playlists. That's how this works. So I went looking through his playlist and I said, what is Brian Rose hiding? What's he been deleting lately? And what I found shocked me. Brian Rose has been deleting all the conservative podcast that he had on his channel. This is Brian, I'll defend your death, your right to say it, whatever. Look at this. He deleted his Larry Elder podcast. Look, this video has been removed by the uploader. Oops. His Dan Crenshaw episode, his Dennis Prager episode, Candace Owens, but it's got a certain leaning to it, right? Because he's got other interviews that you might think of as maybe a little bit controversial, that are still up as long as they have left-wing views. But if they're a right-winger, then all of a sudden he removes them. Dave Rubin's removed. Here we go, Dave Rubin. But basically he's cleaning house of all the controversial interviews. He's censoring himself and removing stuff off of his platform so people can't find it anymore, find out what he believes now that he's running for mayor. Look, even David Icke, Mr. David Icke, the guy who basically put Brian on the map, to be honest. Brian's career exploded when he got connected with David Icke. Where are all the videos with David Icke? There are 15 deleted videos with David Icke. And the one that is still up, what it's called is, I don't agree with everything you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Apparently only until it's politically inconvenient for him, and then he'll delete your video with him. I will say he still has his videos up on the Digital Freedom platform. I will give you that. But I think there's some very strategic reasons he's removing them from YouTube. And I'm going to prove in a second that it's him removing them, not YouTube. I think he's doing it because he knows most people won't actually go through his platform. They're going to go through YouTube to find out what he thinks. And so he's curating this very palatable public image. He knows he's in the public eye now that he's trying to run for mayor. And so he's trying to clean house. He doesn't want to be seen associating with somebody like David Icke, because he knows he's going to be seen as a conspiracy theorist. He knows the optics of it. He might say that he's Mr. Free Speech. I'll let David Icke on my platform. But in reality, he's trying to distance himself. I don't know David Icke who, that kind of stuff. Because when you look at these videos that he's deleted, right? You got to look at these videos that he's deleted. Look, you might be thinking to yourself, well, surely YouTube has deleted all of them, right? Well, no, because he's always crying censorship, right? And it's not true that YouTube's deleted all of them. Look, this is a private video, anything that says private, automatically you know that London Real proactively did that. Then secondly, you can tell even with deleted videos whether London Real deleted it or YouTube deleted it. For example, there's one video in this playlist that was actually deleted by YouTube. It's this one right here. It says this video has been removed for violating YouTube's community guidelines. But the rest of these deleted videos, they say this video has been removed by the uploader. Can you see that? This video has been removed by, here's another one. Here's another one. This video has been removed by the uploader. Here's another one. Once again, removed. What does this all mean? London Real's cleaning house with all of his controversial episodes, you know? By the way, I don't care if you're conservative, Republican, Democrat, a liberal, however you identify. That's not the point of this channel. Not a political thing. It's a hypocrisy thing. You can't be Mr. Free Speech and then not actually support free speech on your channel.
One thing I've understood about freedom of speech is it really means freedom of speech for things you don't want to hear out of other people's minds.
Screenshots of the comment section on Brian Rose's TEDx talk video, and it was clear that hundreds of paid comments existed on this video. Why would he pay for comments to appear on his TEDx talk video that isn't on his channel? Because this is where people can leave negative comments about Brian and not have the comments deleted. Buying comments floods out all of the negative comments. I think Brian Rose has two different personalities, before Dan Pena and after Dan Pena. Before his participation in the Castle of Dan Pena, Brian Rose was just a podcaster, a guy having cool conversation with an assortment of guests.
And ultimately, I think people want to connect with other people. And when you spend an hour inside their brain, you almost walk a mile in their shoes. And then you relate to them.
When Brian Rose first began London Real with Nick Gabriel, he was a burned out derivatives trader and wanted to tell cool stories on air. His ethos of having conversations with guests from many walks of life led to his podcast gaining popularity. Enough popularity that even Joe Rogan invited him onto his show. But then he met Dan Pena.
Dan is a he really is, truly a and I also love Dan Pena very, very much.
Brian legitimately changed after meeting with Dan.
I, on the other hand, was wearing combat trousers, boots, a skateboarding shirt, and I had something growing from here, right? What is that called?
After meeting with Dan Pena and graduating from the fake guru factory, Brian began dressing like a presidential candidate. His podcast, professionalism, and appearance improved. But a part of him within this little ego and ethos of chasing money started to appear. What many people may not realize is that it always existed.
I was a little crazy back in the day. I used to watch the movie Wall Street constantly. I used to quote Gordon Gekko. I used to read American Psycho like it was a how-to manual.
This clip was shot for the intro to his first interview with Dan Pena. This may not sound important, but to me, it provides great insight into who Brian always was. The movie Wall Street was all about greed and chasing after money regardless of the legality of the pursuit. Brian was a derivatives trader and said that career was based on pursuing money without actually creating any value for society.
The fact that I just wasn't happy. It is a soulless existence. There's no community. You're not creating anything, especially when they're told their whole lives that once you become a banker, once you make all this money, you're going to be happy.
I think Brian wanted to create something that he saw as valuable to consumers, unlike his previous career.
He doesn't contribute to the vibe of London Real and to the idea that we're trying to look beyond the dollar bill, to look a little bit further into our fellow human being. And
in the same intro just a minute later, Brian even said that the podcast was about looking further than making money. When Brian met with Dan Pena and graduated from the fake guru factory, I think that inner money-making ego came alive and slowly started to present itself. I found this clip to be really interesting.
About 3 years in, I thought, this isn't making any money. I'm literally just having fun like you are on your podcast. And I thought, unless I turn this into a business, I'm gonna have to be a banker. So I created London Real Academy because my viewers were saying, Brian, teach us how to do what you did.
Brian was running a business that was not making any money, and then was asked how he runs this business that doesn't make any money, and then turned that into a $3,000 course on how to run a business. Business Accelerator Academy was born. Does anyone else find this social media business landscape so weird? You make money online by teaching others how to make money online. Let me be clear though, there's absolutely nothing wrong with charging for coaching or access to information. Brian's course is probably plenty fine for a certain customer, but I just find this social media world to be so bizarre.
I've got students in 107 countries, graduated over 5,000 people.
It's funny that graduation is a valuable metric because I personally would rather talk about student success against expectations. At $3,000 per person and 5,000 students, that's $15 million gross revenue over the past few years. He couldn't turn much of a profit before Business Accelerator, and now he's running a 7-figure business, teaching how to run a business, and that's not including the portion of students paying $10,000 for inner circle access. One thing that I find fascinating about course sellers, and I haven't seen anyone talking about this, is the ridiculous interest rates these customers are paying. He prices his course at $3,000. Let's assume that's the market rate for this kind of product. If you finance the course over 6 months, then you will pay $3,600. That is a 20% increase in price over 6 months, meaning you're being charged a yearly rate of 40%. 40% interest if you finance the course. This is like a payday loan, a quick cash loan type of business. In this Vice article written about Brian Rose, the writer is a pretty harsh critic of Brian's attempts to cash in on the hype surrounding the David Icke interview, as well as mentioning negative reviews from students. Brian responded with a 30-minute video asserting that many statements within the article were false and that he would expect Vice to hear from his legal team about redacting these statements. What I found interesting was that he never addressed the segment about Brian Rose's business being in debt. The most recent accounts filed for Longstem Limited, the only active company registered in Rose's name, show a business carrying significant debts. In the financial year ending December 18, the firm had gross debts of more than £374,000, having made a loss of just over £126,500, according to documents filed with Companies House in November of 2019. In the year prior, it lost £174,000. The last time Longstem turned a profit was in its first year, 2016, when it made £15,914. I find it peculiar that he didn't address this paragraph because this would be the easiest statement to redact, along with giving viewers the impression that he was a successful and savvy businessman, because he's running a business teaching others how to run a business, right?
I'm actually an extremely frugal guy. And I always have been with London Real. If we don't have the money, we don't spend it.
For those of you who followed Brian Rose's descent into YouTube infamy, you know where this is headed. I personally think Brian became more popular than he could handle. I see a guy who was a former banker turned podcaster, and then all of a sudden had 1 million subscribers on YouTube, was being yelled at by Dan Pena to become a billionaire so Dan's ego could be satisfied, and then had that inner Wall Street greed is good voice find a megaphone. He was never a businessman, nor did he ever build up a 7-figure operation from savvy business skills. He gained popularity from having interesting guests on a unique podcast show right when podcasting was becoming a thing. The David Icke interviews were his tipping point. He took on more than he could handle. He saw an opportunity to start a big movement and became the leader of this digital freedom movement and bit off more than he could chew.
I like to push myself and see how hard I can push it.
Raising over $1 million that quickly is really impressive, but the problem was that he didn't know how to allocate the funds properly. He cared more about a fake award for most live stream guests on his platform, aka his website, more than he cared about the consumers donating money.
Let me say something about live streams. Live streams are expensive.
There was no reason for him to spend $100,000 on a live stream and ask for $250,000 per month in donations to help support this platform. This is what happens when someone isn't properly equipped with the ability to handle money. It's been a disaster since he raised the money.
Realizing that communication is important. So I plan to do this every week and let you know kind of what's going on behind the scenes.
For a guy that has nearly 8,000 videos on YouTube, he didn't seem to want to make videos giving updates on the platform that was built from the funds of his followers.
First of all, I just want to say that all of the money we have raised has not been spent. A small, tiny fraction has been spent. I think, 10 or 20% of actually has been spent.
I held off on making this video because I wanted to give Brian a few months for an opportunity to bounce back, but here we are 6 months later and he's been ghosted from his communication with his followers.
I'm actually an extremely frugal guy, and I always have been with London Real. If we don't have the money, we don't spend it.
Why haven't you been making videos about the progress for your digital freedom platform, Brian? To me, he made a colossal mistake going for a live stream audience when the paying customers just wanted to see the conversation posted somewhere on the internet and not banned. He massively overspent this donation money and then didn't address the questions followers had about the spending of the funds.
Phase 3 of this platform is all going to be about engaging technology companies and using blockchain to make this even more effective. We've got big plans here at London Real.
It sounds to me like Brian received more attention than he could handle, misevaluated the importance of his channel and the evil corporation spying on him, and went all out to create a new social media platform. Blockchain technology for a podcast? It's an interview with a guest, not a black market with illegal goods being sold. Instead of facing the music and being transparent about his decisions, he then chose to run for mayor and basically sidestep the entire digital freedom platform conversation. Now he's on a world tour around the city of London. I think it would be more appropriate to call it a city tour because I'm fairly confident he's not politicking outside of London. Brian was never in position to be a guru until he mingled with Dan Pena. He was a podcast host who wore camo shorts and cutoff t-shirts and sold a few digital products teaching people how to sell digital products. Then he soared in popularity, started wearing expensive suits, and turned the David Icke event into an opportunity to raise $1 million. Where that money went is still a great question.
I'll tell you where he spent a lot of that money, on a big bus with a big picture of himself on it.
Raising money for the Digital Freedom Platform is a great reminder of why I'm pushing transparency from these popular social media gurus so much. When you raise money in most investment schemes, you face legal ramifications if you just bolt and stop answering emails. It would be nice if Brian could be transparent about how he spent the money, but he's off to bigger and better things like running for mayor, I guess. He's been double uploading videos lately, which is really bizarre. His engagement is terrible for a channel with 2 million subscribers, and him buying comments for his TEDx Talk video is sad. To me, he's showing a lot of charlatan behavior, taking money and not being transparent, selling a business course while his business wasn't even profitable, and then buying YouTube comments to hide the negativity. Be careful who you follow on social media.
Guys, that's my video on Brian Rose. Obviously, a lot of the content in this video was from the two YouTubers that I mentioned at the beginning. Please go and check them out. And you know, when it comes to the size of the grift, with Brian Rose, I felt it was very important that I make a video on him and share with you what I had learned and what I had seen. Now, do I think that Brian Rose has a chance of being the Mayor of London? Honestly, I think that there's more chances of pigs flying, or even March the 4th being it today, and near the end of today, being a notable day in the presidency of the United States. Guys, thank you for watching, and follow M Seeker of Truth.